There is a moment in every performer's career where the noise around them either breaks them or becomes the exact thing they needed to prove something. For Jimin, that moment arrived in Madrid, and if you have not seen what happened on that stage yet, you are about to understand why thousands of fans are calling it one of the most important nights of this entire tour. Let's rewind for a second, because context matters here. Back in April and May of 2026, in the early weeks of the Era World Tour, Jimin found himself at the center of an online firestorm. Clips from concerts began circulating, edited and re-edited, with critics zeroing in on supposed voice cracks and shaky notes. The internet did what the internet always does. It split into two camps almost instantly. One side mocked him mercilessly, comparing his voice to cartoon characters, claiming he had been relying on auto-tune the entire tour. The other side fought back, just as hard, pointing out that many of the viral clips were taken out of context, edited to remove the most demanding choreography moments, or stripped of the fact that singing live while executing intense dance breaks is one of the hardest things any performer can do on a stadium stage. If you have been following this channel, you already know we covered that controversy in detail, and if you have not, go check that video out after this one, because it sets up everything that happened next. Because what happened next is the part nobody saw coming. Before Madrid, before any of this redemption arc began playing out, Jimin had just stepped off a runway in Paris. He had walked, sat front row, and absorbed every flash of the cameras at the Dior Men's Summer 2027 show, immersed in a world of high fashion, of stillness, of curated elegance. And then, in the span of just a few days, he had to switch gears completely. From the quiet intensity of a fashion week front row to the chaos, sweat, and physical demand of a 360-degree stadium stage in front of more than 66,000 screaming fans. That kind of transition alone would exhaust most people. For Jimin, it became the backdrop for one of his strongest performances of the entire tour. Madrid was historic before a single note was even sung. This marked BTS's first ever stadium concerts in Spain, hosted at the Riyadh Air Metropolitano on June 26th and June 27th, 2026. Tickets sold out almost instantly. Fans poured in from France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, and the United Kingdom, turning the city purple days before the concerts even began. The atmosphere outside the stadium was already electric, with pop-up stores drawing long lines and fan gatherings spilling into the streets. Local media described it as an energy usually reserved for the biggest sporting events in the world, and if you have ever wondered what it actually feels like when an entire city transforms because of one group's arrival, this is exactly what that looks like. Before we go further into what happened on that stage, I want you to do something for me. If you are even a little bit invested in this story already, hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel breaks down every major BTS moment with context you will not find anywhere else. And trust me, there is a lot more coming from this European leg of the tour. Now, back to the night itself. The show opened with raw, unfiltered energy. J-Hope shouted out to the Spanish crowd, sparking an explosion of cheers before the group launched into their opening run, blending tracks from their fifth album with some of their biggest career-defining hits. Over 23 songs filled the night, with the stadium singing along to nearly every line, a wall of sound rising up to meet the group on stage. And it was within this whirlwind of choreography, lights, and crowd noise that Jimin delivered the performance everyone is still talking about. The song was Not Today. If you know anything about BTS's catalog, you know this is not a song that allows for shortcuts. It demands sharp, aggressive choreography, full-body commitment, and vocal power that has to cut through layered group harmonies and a roaring stadium crowd at the same time. This is the kind of song where there is nowhere to hide. You either bring everything you have, or the gaps show immediately. And in Madrid, across both nights, June 26th and June 27th, Jimin brought everything. Fancams started flooding social media within minutes of the performance ending. Not edited highlight reels, not curated clips designed to go viral, but raw, shaky, phone-recorded footage from fans standing in the crowd, capturing exactly what they were seeing in real time. And what those fans kept highlighting, over and over, in caption after caption, was the same combination of things. Intense choreography executed with precision, commanding stage presence, and vocals that stayed powerful and controlled even in the middle of some of the most physically demanding movement of the night. The hashtag Vocal King Jimin started trending almost immediately, used by fans who just weeks earlier had been defending him against accusations of weak live singing. Think about that timeline for a second. In April and May, this man was being torn apart online, mocked in viral tweets, compared to cartoon mice, accused of hiding behind studio tricks. And by late June in Madrid, the conversation had flipped entirely, with fans crowning him a vocal king after watching him handle one of the most demanding songs in the BTS catalog while moving through choreography that leaves almost no room to catch your breath, let alone sing cleanly. This is the part of the story that I think gets lost when people only see headlines. Live vocal performance, especially in a touring stadium show, is not a fixed, static thing. It fluctuates night to night based on physical exhaustion, weather conditions, sound mixing, monitor issues, even the emotional state of the performer in that exact moment. The clips that went viral back in April captured one specific night, one specific moment, magnified and dissected by people who, in many cases, were never going to give Jimin the benefit of the doubt regardless of what he did. Madrid did not erase that controversy. It did not rewrite history, but it offered something arguably more powerful: real-time, unedited proof, captured by hundreds of different fans from hundreds of different angles, all pointing toward the same conclusion at the same time. If this kind of breakdown is exactly what you come to this channel for, drop a comment below and tell me which Jimin performance from this tour stood out to you the most so far. I read every single comment, and honestly, some of the moments you all bring up end up becoming entire videos on this channel, so do not be shy. Let's talk a little more about what made this specific moment in Madrid feel different from earlier criticized performances. Choreography-wise, Not Today is unforgiving. It involves rapid formation changes, synchronized group movement, and bursts of high-intensity dancing that spike heart rate almost instantly. Singers across the music industry, not just in K-pop, will tell you that singing immediately after or during intense physical movement is one of the hardest vocal challenges that exists. Your breath control gets disrupted. Your diaphragm is working overtime just to keep you upright and moving, let alone supporting a sustained vocal line. This is true for any performer, anywhere in the world, regardless of how talented they are. And yet, according to the wave of fan-captured footage from Madrid, Jimin's vocals during this specific performance held steady. Not perfect in some robotic, untouchable sense, because live performance is never meant to be flawless, but strong, controlled, and clearly audible above the instrumental and crowd noise. Fans who had spent weeks defending him through the April and May controversy finally had something concrete to point to, not as a rebuttal in a Twitter argument, but as a genuine, in-the-moment piece of evidence that the narrative being pushed about his live singing simply did not match what was happening on stage in real time. There is something almost poetic about where this moment landed in the broader arc of Jimin's recent months. This is a performer who only recently returned from a long hiatus, stepping back into the spotlight after military service, carrying the weight of expectations from millions of fans who had waited years to see him on a stage like this again. Back in April, during the tour's very first stop in Goyang, Jimin had openly spoken about the pressure he felt returning to performing at this level, admitting that the experience felt burdensome at times because he wanted so badly to meet the expectations placed on him. That admission, raw and honest, painted the picture of someone who was not coasting through this comeback. He was carrying real weight, real nerves, real physical and emotional exhaustion, all while the internet dissected every imperfect note from every angle imaginable. So when Madrid happened, when the choreography hit hardest and the vocals held strongest, it did not read as some scripted redemption arc manufactured for a highlight reel. It read as the natural result of someone who had been working through exhaustion, pressure, and public criticism, city after city, show after show, slowly finding his footing again on one of the biggest stages of his career. Before we move into the final stretch of the story, if you are someone who genuinely cares about BTS getting accurate coverage instead of clickbait nonsense designed to either tear them down or worship them blindly, this channel exists specifically for you. Hit that like button if you want more deep dives like this one, because it genuinely helps this kind of grounded, fact-checked content reach more people instead of the algorithm pushing out misleading hot takes. Now let's talk about what happened after the music stopped, because Madrid gave us more than just one viral vocal moment. Toward the end of the show, Jimin stepped forward and delivered a message to the crowd, prepared in Spanish, continuing a pattern he has kept throughout this tour of greeting each country in its own language. He had done it in Japanese in Tokyo, in Spanish again during the Mexico stop, and now here in Madrid. He was doing it once more, this time for a crowd experiencing their first ever BTS stadium show on home soil. There was an emotional undertone to that moment, a recognition that Spain had waited a long time for this, paired with a promise that future tours would not leave Madrid off the list again. For a fan base that had spent weeks defending his vocal ability against viral criticism, watching him close the night with that kind of warmth and gratitude added another layer to an already powerful evening. It is worth zooming out here because this entire arc says something bigger about how online narratives form and how quickly they can shift. In April, a handful of edited clips shaped a global conversation about Jimin's vocal ability, spreading across platforms faster than any clarification or context could keep up with. By June, in Madrid, a completely different wave of footage, just as fast, just as widespread, told a different story entirely. Neither moment exists in a vacuum. Both are real. The trembling hands fans noticed after the rainy Goyang opening were real. The pressure Jimin spoke about feeling was real. The criticism in April and May was based on real footage, even if heavily debated in terms of context. And the powerful, choreography-heavy vocal performance in Madrid was also real, captured by enough independent fans from enough different angles that it became difficult to dismiss as coincidence or editing trickery. This is exactly why context matters so much when you are following an artist through something like a world tour. A single clip, stripped of everything around it, can tell almost any story you wanted to tell. But when you follow the full arc, from the rain-soaked opening night in Goyang, through the controversy of April and May, all the way to a sold-out, history-making run of shows in Madrid, you start to see something closer to the truth. You see an artist navigating real physical demands, real public pressure, and real personal growth, all happening simultaneously, in front of millions of people watching every move. If you have made it this far into the video, I want you to comment one word below that describes how you felt the first time you heard about the Madrid Not Today performance. Shocked, proud, relieved, vindicated, whatever it is, drop it below because I genuinely want to see how the story landed for different parts of this community. There is also something worth saying about the role fans played in all of this. Throughout the entire controversy, from April's viral criticism all the way through to Madrid's vindicating fan cams, the fan community never stopped documenting, defending, and sharing what they were actually witnessing in real time. That kind of grassroots, decentralized fact-checking is honestly one of the more underrated parts of modern fandom culture. It is not about blind worship. It is about people refusing to let a narrative be shaped entirely by out-of-context clips, while also being willing to acknowledge real moments of struggle when they happened, like the trembling hands after Goyang, or the honest admission of pressure Jimin shared in his post-concert livestream back in April. That balance, criticism paired with context, support paired with honesty, is what makes this fandom's documentation of a tour feel credible rather than performative. And Madrid became the moment where all of that documentation converged into something undeniable. Not a single perfectly edited clip designed to win an argument, but hundreds of imperfect, shaky, real recordings, all pointing in the same direction, all capturing the same thing. Heavy, demanding choreography, paired with vocals that did not crumble under the pressure. As the European leg of the Arirang World Tour continues, with Brussels next on the schedule before the group moves on to London, Munich, and eventually Paris, this Madrid performance sets an interesting tone for what comes next. If this is the level Jimin is performing at after navigating months of public scrutiny, after balancing Fashion Week appearances with stadium tours, after carrying the emotional weight of a long-awaited comeback, then the rest of this European run might end up being one of the most compelling stretches of the entire tour to watch. Before we wrap up, here is what I want from you. If this video gave you the full picture, the controversy, the context, and the redemption moment in Madrid, smash that like button, drop your honest thoughts in the comments, and if you have not already, subscribe so you do not miss the next breakdown from Brussels, London, or wherever this tour takes Jimin next. This channel exists to give you the real story, not just the headlines, and that only works if his community keeps showing up the way it has. Madrid did not erase the criticism from April and May. It was never going to, and honestly, it should not have to. But it did something arguably more meaningful. It gave fans a real, lived, witnessed answer to months of online debate, delivered not through a press statement or a carefully worded apology, but through sweat, breath control, and 66,000 people watching a man prove, in real time, exactly what he is capable of when the choreography gets heavy and the stakes get higher. That is the story of what Jimin did in Madrid. And if you want to see how the storyline continues as the tour rolls through Europe, make sure you are subscribed, because this is only one chapter in a much bigger comeback story still being written night after night, city after city.